What is up, jabronis? JJ back here with Spread Esther. Going to talk a little semifinals, U.S. Open, right? We got a match that literally starts in 30 minutes. Nice little pop-up live video, if you will. Interestingly enough, I was going to do my typical college football video. However, I looked at the slate tomorrow. It's quite ugly. So I figured I would do a U.S. Open video. Reached out to my guy Spread, and he was happy to join as well. So, and his ladies start soon. I know you're a big WTA guy, Spread. So I guess we could just dive right in. Semifinals, 4 matches over the next 2 days. And then, of course, the finals. Some interesting folks left on the ladies' end. The men's end was a little more, dare I say, predictable with who's left. But, you know, the ladies' end should be some fun matches tonight. I guess we can kick right off with the Fernandez match and Sabalenka. Now, I'll start here, Spread, and I'm interested in some of your thoughts. Now, something I've liked about Fernandez here, excuse the fact that she's won like 3 or 4 straight matches as an underdog, and as a decent underdog at that. I mean, look at this triage she's beaten in Osaka, Kerber, and Svitolina, all 3 of them in 3 sets. What I've liked from her has been how good she's been at hitting winners, especially from levels of consistency. I've seen her, I don't know where she got this newfound, what I'll call power, I guess. She's hitting winners. She's hitting winners from like behind the baseline. And, you know, somebody who watched her a decent amount on clay, she just didn't seem to have that type of power. So I'm not sure. And I know that obviously the hard surface helps, but it's been interesting. And she's like a little firecracker. You see her, you know, cheering on every point. Kind of reminds me of a bit of Shapovalov a little earlier in his career, where every single point she's like, you know, giving the humras. But look, she's been fun to watch. Now, interestingly enough, Sabalenka here is a fat favorite. I'd argue deservedly so to a certain extent. Fernandez has faced now 3 straight matches like this where she's been a big underdog. Similar lines. Osaka was the biggest by far, though. But Kerber, this was a similar line. And Svitolina, this was a similar line. The thing about Sabalenka in her last match was she was literally gifted the win versus Krejcikova. I'm sure you watched, Spread. I don't know if Krejcikova was hurt. I don't know if she was fatigued. The unforced errors, and granted, all unforced errors aren't created equal, right? But woof, I mean, they're just like volleying back and forth most of the match. And Krejcikova's hitting into the net consistently, going out wide right, going out wide left. It was just a weird match in that respect. Before you talk on this match, what was your take on that Krejcikova-Sabalenka match? Because it felt like it was almost like gifted to Sabalenka, and Krejcikova's been so good that it was just such an odd match to watch.
Yeah, I felt like she was suffering some sort of viral illness. We saw her in the controversial, timeout against Sabalenka. If you listen, she was complaining of dizziness and stomach aches with her cramping. So I think that it's just, is the end of the road and some fatigue. And you're right, Sabalenka basically got gifted that. Not to take away from what she's accomplished, though. She's won 38 of 40 service games since that 3-set first round match, right? So, I mean, she's just been absolutely rolling against everybody. But yeah, I don't think Krejcikova was 100%. So it'd be interesting to see where she goes from here. I wouldn't be surprised if she took all the way till Indian Wells off.
Yeah, and I think that, and you bring up a good point, not to take away from Sabalenka, who this is finally what appears to be her major to lose. Am I crazy to say it from this point on? I mean, she's going to be favored versus Sakkari. So I'd argue this is really hers to lose at this point. And she's been at this stage in her career a few times. Nerves might begin to hit her here. Meanwhile, Fernandez with nothing to lose. Like, again, she's been a tough chick to push over, if you will. What's your take on the spread here? And I get why it is what it is, but man, Fernandez is likely to be a super chalky dog in this match, just because of the price in general. It feels like a math line that you would see in like a random tournament 2 months ago. Fernandez is beating some studs here. What's your take on this line? Why it might be this big, and if there is some value in Fernandez?
Yeah, I think that the reason it is so big, right? You mentioned it, Sabalenka's just been rolling since that first round match. Not only winning easily. Fernandez has been winning, but these are 3-set squeakers, right? Against Svitolina, right? 7-5 in the tiebreak in the third set, so she could have easily lost that one. I would think that the accumulation of fatigue is a concern for the people that set the line, and just the fact that Sabalenka does do well against players that play a more defensive style. So it should bode well for her. That being said, I think it's really hard to discount what Leylah Fernandez has done, right? And if she's able to absorb and redirect Naomi Osaka's power, I don't see any reason why she can't do it here again today. We've also saw that Sabalenka did this at Wimbledon. She played great up until the semifinals, and then if you watch that match against Pliskova, it wasn't necessarily that Pliskova just blew her off the court. I felt that Sabalenka, the nerves got to her. Now being the overwhelming favorite, looking at bookmakers, she's plus 103 to win the title. Sakkari plus 210, Raducanu plus 410, Fernandez way out to plus 725. Does that have an effect here? So that'll be interesting to see. I think there's slight value on the on taking Fernandez here as a dog, but I actually had a different play. But I'll let you go ahead and give out yours, and then I'll give you mine.
No, I'm going to have a play in the next match. So
Okay, so I'll give you mine right now then, and I like the over here. I'm surprised that the under actually took some money here. It was 21 last night. It's down to 20.5, and just my idea here is it's Zach Wilson in the chat, right? So grabbing Chris in the chat. Fernandez plus 4.5, pretty much making the same bet by doing that. But I just think Fernandez definitely has enough to trouble her and get to a tiebreak and maybe make it into another 3-set battle. Will she get tired there? That's also a concern. But I really like the over here. I think this is going to be a pretty close match.
Yeah, I can't disagree. And I think that you brought up a good point with the absorbing power. I felt like Svitolina caught Fernandez on the run so many times in that match with heavy forehands where you look like you look at the court positioning and where the ball is, and you figure it's going to be a defensive return from Fernandez, and quickly flips that switch defense to offense with a liner, right down the baseline or a cross quarter where, caught Svitolina off guard constantly in that match. Now, granted, like you said, I mean, at the end of that match, it really could have went either way. But needless to say, just a really good game match from Fernandez. And here we go again now with another tough player in Sabalenka. I do like the call with the over. I do think my biggest issue is I'd argue Fernandez is likely going to be challenged on a lot of her service games, whereas Sabby's going to get herself a decent amount of free points while Fernandez has played some top quality players. She has certainly not played a player with a serve like Sabalenka's. Osaka's got a big serve, but she hasn't been in her best form recently. So this will be an interesting, matchup from that respect. But I do like the over there.
My only thing on your concern there is Sabalenka's never really been confused to be a top flight returner, right? Even against some of these players here, she struggles in her return game. Sometimes she can be too aggressive, and then sometimes, when she's starting to get out of sorts, she won't be aggressive at all, and kind of mitigate the advantage that she'll get on the second serve. So while you are true, it's very true that Sabalenka is going to get much more free points than Fernandez. I do also think that Fernandez will do fine on serve, and I don't know if Sabalenka will be taking advantage of it as much as some of these other players, like even Naomi was.
That's true, and that's a good point. And we could, with you giving out that best bet, we could slide into this next match, and I'll hear your take first because this is going to be my best bet. But I don't want to steer you. I don't want to influence anything you're going to say.
Well, okay.
And just for folks watching, like me and Spread don't like jive before the show starts to make sure we're all in sync. I mean, this is on the cuff. So what is your take on this match with the young Raducanu versus Sakkari?
Yeah, I was gonna say I'm not really too worried about that. I think this is a really tough match to handicap, so I can't wait to hear the play that you're going to give out here. Emma Raducanu, I'll be honest, I've been guilty of underestimating her. I wasn't really too impressed with her path, and I thought that the way Belinda was playing, I really thought that was where going to be this feel-good story, and the Cinderella story came to the end. But not only did she win, she just won in convincing fashion, and it looked like a top level of play, right? And then Sakkari is another one who I think that I do have a tendency to underrate because of her issues closing matches out in the past, but we're not seeing that now. I mean, against Andreescu, right? She had plenty of chances to fold, especially there in that second set when Andreescu, when it went to the second tiebreak. I thought that Bianca was going to put it away, and once it went to the third, you just saw her fighting spirit, and when she had a chance to serve it out, a little bit of nerves, but not like we've seen in the past, and she was able to do it. I think this is a really tough match to handicap, so I can't wait to hear what you have here.
Yeah, so for me, I really like the dog here at plus 130. So it's becoming consensus there. And it's for a few different reasons. So first of all, we know Sakkari does deal with a little bit of nerves. She has some Svitolina in there, if you will. My only concern, I'll talk a few different things on this match, is Raducanu has gone back-to-back matches. Spread, I'm not sure if you've realized this. Back-to-back matches where she's been broken in her opening service game. So when we talk about nerves, Raducanu hasn't exactly started out fresh in her most recent matches. So, when I talk about wanting to get her at 130, if you get her after she gets broken, I mean, that's going to jump to 250, 260, maybe even a little higher. So for me, part of me wants to maybe go like half you on her pre, and if she starts out slow again, just put the rest of it on her live, the rest of the unit anyway. One of the big things I want to mention about Raducanu, all tournament long, maximum amount of unforced errors in a match, 18. She's averaging basically 15 unforced errors a match. That is like unheard of, especially for this to be this deep into the tournament. It's not like she's been playing, scrubs either. I mean, she has some decent wins. Now, Sakkari, we know is going to go for winners. We know she moves well. We know at times she has that weird hiccup service game. She's been really good on serve in this tournament. Look, first of all, it goes without saying, Raducanu hasn't even dropped a set this tournament. Now, what does that do? What does that do for her psyche, right? Because if she does go down a set, right, that's a whole new animal. Whereas at least Sakkari dealt with a little bit of adversity in the Bianca match. But overall, we'll talk about adversity. Third set, right? Wasn't she down a break, Sakkari, to versus Bianca before she ended up getting her or pulling back on? So, look, Sakkari is a little more battle-tested, if you will, at this point. I do have some concerns over her own nerves, though, because we've seen that kind of flare up on her. Raducanu just seems like she's playing so freely. Actually, when the match kind of gets into the groove, though, early on, I've had some nerves concerns with her. Against Shelby Rogers, her first service game, it was like, oof, what's going on with this chick? And all she did was win six straight games after Rogers locked up 2-0. And then she dominated the second set as well. I just think Raducanu has been so efficient. She's been like a wall. And I think if she can just force Sakkari into tough shots, tough winners, we both know Sakkari can pile up unforced errors. I know that Sakkari just played Pliskova, who, many might have thought at this point in the tournament was going to be the likely winner. What I thought was, I don't like targeting players off what I consider to be their best tournament match. And I felt like that was what we got from Sakkari versus Pliskova. Raducanu is a different type of player entirely, and I think that might change up, might make things difficult for Sakkari, at least as the match begins to play out or begins to flesh out. So again, there's a few different angles for me. To me, this is as close to a coin flip as you'll get, and I understand why Sakkari's favored. She deserves to be. Raducanu's still, young, and maybe nerves might hit her more here. But overall, you just look at the sample size of what you have, and I know Sakkari's beaten Pliskova and Bianca and even Kvitova, Sinikova. She has had a tough path here, only dropping one set. So I get that there might be the angle of people like, oh, well, Sakkari probably should be like minus 200, minus 250 here. But again, Raducanu has just been such a backboard in this venue. And Sakkari's been playing a lot of power players recently. She's going to get more of a backboard-esque player from Raducanu, who's not going to hit a lot of winners, but going to keep a lot of rallies going. And I like her to do enough here, at least as a dog, to even potentially pull the upset. So again, call it 30 cents of value, almost an auto play for me with Raducanu. What do you think, Spread?
All right. Yeah. I mean, you made a great choice. I think I would have agreed with whichever you said. I think you can make a good argument for both players, and this match is going to be a lot of fun. But hey, in a match that's really tough to call, I'd rather have the plus money, right? So I'm with you here.
Awesome. So we can slide over to the men's end, and I actually have a wanted to run a two-teamer by you once we get past all the matches in general. it won't be a money line, but I wanted your thoughts. But either way, before we do that, Medvedev Felix, what's your thoughts on this match? Obviously, you got the two bigger favorites, right? The Djokovic Zverev match figures to be a better one, but Medvedev Felix, big line. Any thoughts? Anything you might like in the match spread?
Yeah, I think Medvedev's just playing fantastic. I think the line is about right. I think that if you were to attack it, maybe the under 35.5. I would prefer that towards laying the 6 here. But the way Medvedev's been playing, it's really hard to get in front of him. Now, Felix has been playing pretty good as well. But I don't know necessarily how high I rate all these victories, right? Tiafoe was a nice victory. RBA was a good victory as well. But necessarily wasn't that impressive. I have been really impressed with the way Medvedev played. Finally dropped a set, but it was almost like he felt like doing a Djokovic in that match, dropping a set to Van de Schulp. So I like Medvedev here. I think the price is right. If there's anything, I would lean towards the under 35.5, but I'm not running to the window to make that bet.
Yeah, you bring up a good point on who Felix has played. Like, look at this path here. I mean, I want to talk about gifted a run into the semifinals. Where Alcaraz, you figure, is going to be his final test. Alcaraz kind of pulls out with what I believe was more fatigue than anything. But, then Tiafoe, who was also dealing with some fatigue issues as well a tournament ago. Batista got, which I consider a good win, but it was a stressful win. Wasn't a cruise. While as Medvedev, sure, he hasn't exactly had a tough path either. But Van den Schulp did enough to, I guess, push him. The third set specifically, I agree with you. It seemed like just a weird, Medvedev lay down for not much of a reason. But needless to say, that was the first set he's dropped all tournament. And it's hard to imagine. I mean, what do you think this line would be if this was Djokovic Felix spread? Think it'd be the same?
It would probably be minus 800 to minus 900.
So with that, if that's the case, to me, Medvedev's been at a Joker level recently. And when I say Joker level, not like Joker in his prime level. Like what Joker's been recently. I feel like Medvedev's been there or maybe even beyond there. Find it interesting that they'd still line, this 650, and if it was Joker, they'd line it higher. So I guess with that in mind, you would figure, because we could, before I do that, do you like any bets in this match? I personally don't.
No, I don't either. I think they lined it pretty well.
Yeah. So we could slide over to the Djokovic match, and I want to bring up a separate question to you. Medvedev Zverev. What do you think that line would be?
Medvedev minus 180.
Yeah, it's so interesting, right? And I bet you there'd be a lot of consensus around there, right? Maybe 200-ish. Mm-hmm. But they'd still have Djokovic lined as a bigger favorite. It's almost like the market in general still values old school Djokovic. But this recent version of him hasn't been the same. I mean, granted, you could tell he elevates his play in certain matches, and certain times you're like, wow, this dude really wants to win these points or this specific set or whatever. But then you see the weirdness, the weird unforced errors from him, which just volleying back and forth and he, volleys an unforced error. Things you never see from him, you've been seeing recently. And now he walks into a very informed Sasha Zverev. So last match, as you know, Spread, I was on Harris to grab a set. I was quite tilting as Harris serves out for the set and can't do that, and then has a set point on his serve in the tiebreak and can't do that either. And the first set point Zverev gets, he cashes in on. And then from there, it was Harris just lost any mental aspect of the match that he could have gotten. But I will say that Zverev has been vulnerable in this tournament. He's been fortunate to a certain extent. He's played really well, of course. But to me, this is the opportunity for Djokovic to remind the youngin just how good he is and what it takes to be his level. But I do have concerns over his form because Zverev's been tremendous. Do you have any spot you like in this? Any type of wager, specifically total spread?
Yeah, I do kind of like the +4 for Zverev. I do think that he can keep it close and maybe grab a set or two. And what do you make of this new kind of tradition that Djokovic has of spotting his opponent a set before he really starts playing? Do you think that comes into play in here again tomorrow?
That's a good. What's weird? It's I know he did it versus Berrettini, but it's almost I almost get this feeling in the recent Djokovic matches, he's just wow, look at how good my opponent is. My opponent is so good. This is crazy how good my opponent is. And then it's oh, wait, let me remind you all that I'm so much better than this opponent.
Yeah.
It's a weird dynamic because obviously he's not doing that on purpose, but like it's just like I've been seeing such a different version of him set 2 onward than the first set. I mean, not only did he not even give himself a break opportunity against Brooksby in the first set, he had like 4 or 5 opportunities he gave Brooksby on his own racket, which again, just weird. And in the post-game conference, he basically said, I had struggles reading, his game early on, and then I kind of adjusted. But what's the excuse for Berrettini? I mean, so it's like you just played him. So it's been weird. And this is what we talk about handicapping his motivation. I think the difference here is, and I'm interested in what your thoughts are on this 2-teamer. I was thinking about it. It is actually a money liner. The match does begin shortly, though, but you could get it live. Sabi and Djokovic can basically get that at like -105, -110. Too chalky, not too chalky. I'd actually argue it's like an unchalky parlay because people aren't really betting Sabalenka in this match upcoming, and people want to see Zverev take out Djokovic. So, like, I almost feel like it's an unchalky 2-team parlay. Does that make sense?
Yeah, my concern is on the women's side, actually. I do think that the Djokovic will probably get it done, and march towards the counter Grand Slam. We've seen Sabalenka before, at Wimbledon can just fall apart in the semis under the pressure. I don't necessarily worry about that from Djokovic. I do worry about that with Sabalenka. And also, if she does fall behind, the crowd's going to be all over Layla. I mean, Layla is just the darling of New York right now. And I wonder how much that could factor in there as well.
That's true. That's a good point. So, I mean, ultimately, I'm going to lay off, but it's Sabby. But I call her Sabby with like Sabby, Sabby. I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it because her name's Sabalenka. I'm doing it Sab. I've heard a few people refer to her as Sabby, so I refer to. I don't know if it's a nickname she gets called, but I think I've heard announcers call her Sabby. So relax, Matt. Chill. Somebody, take some edibles or something. Relax. Don't you just love like the people that get super hard-ons about pronunciations of tennis players? Anyway, so yeah, I mean, ultimately it should be a fun semifinal. Sad to say, cue to tiny violins. This will likely be the last tennis show, right? I mean, I doubt we're going to be doing one in between college football and NFL over the next 2 days. Right. And also, why would they? I guess they do this every year, spread, but why would they want to compete with Thursday night football? I mean, like, is it just me? Why wouldn't they have ran these matches 2 hours earlier? So that the U.S. Open final would either have ended as Thursday Night Football started, or you're talking like a wrenching Game 3, a set 3 match where, people won't want to turn it off because of Thursday Night Football. To me, the way they've set it up, any casual tennis fan is watching NFL tonight. Right. Do you disagree?
Yeah, I would agree with that. It is kind of weird that they didn't start earlier today, because I'd rather watch the tennis in the NFL pregame. So,
yeah. Yeah, just super odd. I mean, I think whatever. You start the match at 5:00. Both your matches are over by 9, and everybody's going to be watching football. So it's just weird. But either way, so thanks, Spread, for hanging out. As you mentioned, your best bet is in this match upcoming over 20.5 games. Was that like -110? I think I saw it. Right?
Yeah, I think I got even a little better at Bookmaker. I got -106, -106 on that.
Awesome. And then. And my best bet is I like Raducanu tonight at +130. I just think he's a super live dog. I know Scar's been playing really well, but super live dog in my opinion. So, that wraps it up. We didn't really like much on the men's side. You got 2 big favorites. Just kind of, pick your poison there. I do think if Sabalenka was to go down, I do think there might be some live value in her because, again, I do think she's going to put a lot of pressure on her on Fernandez's service games. But needless to say, fun show. Thanks, Spread, for hanging out. And folks, just so you realize, this will replace my college show. I looked at the college slate tomorrow, and it's quite an ugly one. There's I think a D2 team going up against a D1, a few 30-point favorites. So I'm just going to pass. I will be going live Saturday, talking college football, so for the first time. So buckle up for that. But needless to say, we'll have a content-filled channel this weekend. Bunch of NFL stuff. Spread, you have there's also a live show tonight, isn't there, with Jay?
Yeah, they'll be on live tonight. Tyler and I will be doing a prop-based show tomorrow. We already went live on Tuesday and gave our early thoughts on the spreads and anything that's changed, obviously with the news coming out of the Baltimore Ravens camp today. We'll address it if we've flipped on any of our picks since then. But mainly we'll be going over Tyler's props tomorrow. And then you'll be back Saturday morning. And then you've got a great Sunday morning show too, right?
Yeah, Sunday. I mean, easy with the grade. I appreciate it, but no, I'm just kidding. No, I'm going to be sliding on the DFS end, talking bets on their show.
Okay.
But yeah, we'll be back live here, 1 to 4 with Jay Sunday night. 1 to 4 is a private show for the members, actually. So runpurebets.com to be a part of that. And then the Sunday Night Football will be a free live show from Jay. But as always, folks, gamble responsibly. Tonight is the NFL. So I do remind you again, a second time, gamble responsibly. NFL is going to be fun this weekend, right? Of course, it debuts. College football's got a full week under its belt, most teams. So here we go with college football as well. What a time to be alive, Spread. Got U.S. Open finals, semifinals this week, finals at the end of the week. NFL, college football's in full steam. NBA's right around the corner. Baseball playoffs. What a time to be alive. As always, folks, thanks for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe to the video if you are not already. Be sure to check out Spread and Tyler's prop video for NFL tomorrow. Definitely be a lot of detail, and they'll definitely give you some good bets as well. That'll be a show weekly along with their early rundown, so stay tuned for all of that. But again, thanks as always for watching. Stay safe, folks. Run pure and gamble responsibly. We'll see you next time.